Well, hello everybody out there. If there's anybody out there in Facebook land, this is Lionel Live. I'm Ryan Kunkel, Director of Project Management for Lionel, and tonight we are doing something very different. We're here at my home workbench, and we're going to do just something fun and different to see how things go together on the modeling side of all this. I'll be watching in alongside here and trying to do my best to answer questions as they come up. So I'm just trying to make sure I've got the camera on right now, and we'll get a few more people on board here, and then we'll get started with some things. So I hope everybody is out there having a good day and a good week. There we go. I can see us online there right now. Hey, Ethan. Hey, David. Good to see you guys on there. I'll try and keep up as best as I can with comments tonight. We're a one-man show here in the home office. So this is a little bit different than what we normally do. As you can see, it's not the normal shirt and tie. I am here at home. We'll be back next week on July 15th. Mark your calendars for 3:30 in the afternoon. That'll be the Facebook Live where we go through the Volume 2 catalog, which is off at the printers now and will be shipping very shortly to your dealers and your homes. Definitely looking forward to talking to you all about that and sharing all the great new products that are coming down the road. And those are always great conversations that we like to have. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. Model railroading is more than just about buying and selling trains. This is a whole hobby that you can enjoy in many different aspects. And one of the ways I like to unwind with a hobby here at home after a long day of making model trains is making model trains. So we thought it might be a fun thing for all of you guys to join in and see what some of these things are like. And if you've got some questions on how to do some of these techniques or make yourself a better modeler, please feel free to ask. Like I said, I'll do my best to keep up with the live stream here over the phone and on the computer. Once we get going, I'll be mounting the phone up above the workbench so you can see everything that I'm doing as we go along. With that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what the project's going to be for tonight. If you've been on our YouTube channel recently, you saw that we did a how-to article on the basics of kit assembly using one of our HO scale house kits. We've got a number of these kits in the lineup right now. There are similar products in both HO and O scale available. And whether you're working with one of our Lionel kits or any manufacturer's kits, the things we're going to go over tonight and the basics that were covered on that video are going to help you make a better modeler all over. The kit we started with a few weeks ago, and you can check out our YouTube channel to see how all this came together, was the Miller House HO scale kit. This is product number 1967170, and the results of that build are right over here. And we made a few small changes as we went along with this project to build it up, but it was basically your standard assembly. One thing you'll notice is very missing from this model versus the picture on the box that I just showed is it doesn't have its garage. We left that off of this kit so that we could save that as a fun project for tonight, where we can get into things a little bit more detailed and show you how we'll take this from being just a simple shake the box kit to something that you can be more proud of. I'll show you an example of the same model that I had done earlier on a different model, but same Lionel parts, same kit. This is sort of what we're going to try and recreate tonight. Not exactly this style, this detail, but you can see we've taken this and enhanced it quite a bit. Added a number of bits of weathering, detail, ivy, changed the roof out a little bit to give it some more character and make it stand out. Be something a little bit more different than just your typical everyday model. So hopefully as you watch along tonight, you'll get to see some of those things. If you have any questions about what we're doing, by all means, feel free to chime in and ask, and I will do my best to answer and explain. And with that, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the workbench light here, and I know this is going to look horrible as we go through all the motions, but bear with me as I put the phone up above the workbench here. Okay, hopefully that is translating onto camera pretty well. Waiting for the live feed to catch up to me. Good evening to everybody who's joined in. We're happy to have you here. This is something going to be a little bit different tonight, and we're going to get started on our next kit model and finish off this building with our garage. Okay, so we're going to start off with the sprue left over from the kit. We have it here. These are the remaining parts that we haven't used yet. We've got the roofs, we've got the wall sections that will make up the garage, as well as a dormer here that we put on the model. Starting with a second set of sprues here. And sometimes it's easiest to work with parts while they're still on the runner, but to make things a little easier the way these are cast, we're going to nip them off the sprue real quick and get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to add a window to this garage. Let's make it a little bit different than the ones on the box. And this is an easy thing you can do with our kits because they all come with extra parts. So if you bought one of the kits, you've got all of these extra windows and doors, and you need a place to use them. So let's go ahead and take one of these windows, and we're going to add it to the sidewall of our garage. To do that, the first thing we need to do is mark the location. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to use another wall as a template. Find my pencil here. All right. My daughter's watching, so she can see that I've stolen one of her princess pencils. She's 16 now. I don't think she'll miss it. Right, Chloe? And I'm going to put it right about there. Well, the nice thing with this kit is you've got the wood scribed siding. So keeping it square is going to be a pretty easy task. All right. Mark our window location, and now we can start cutting. One thing I always like to do, let me see here, it looks like I'm a little off camera. Bring that in. One thing I always like to do when I start a new project is start with a new blade, because a good sharp number 11 blade is the key to a lot of success. See here, how are we coming in on the camera? Bring you in a little lower. Okay, to cut out parts for a window, and we're doing this in the garage, but you could do this with any of the models, an easy way to change things up and add them. What I'm going to start by doing is just lightly scribing over the lines that I've drawn. And it helps to have a straight edge. All my Conrail buddies out there will appreciate this. This is one of the greatest modeling tools ever given away by the thousands. And we're just going to lightly go over these lines. We don't want to we're not going to try and cut through this all in one big push. Lots of small passes. That'll help give us a nice, straight, and even cut. And then coming along here, I can use the scribe on the wood, on the part itself, to actually give me a good guide for making this. Okay, now in addition to going around the edges, lightly like that, we're going to go from corner to corner and make an X. Again, lightly at first till you get a path for your knife to follow, and then we'll come in and go a little harder. All right. Okay. Now I can go in and start carving on the X. What we're going to do is create a place where we can break the plastic without having to be as worried about keeping the seam nice and straight. And I know there's nothing more exciting for content on Facebook than watching some guy cut out a window with an X-Acto knife. Okay. As we get deeper, you'll see we're starting to get a mark here on the underside, so we know that we're just about through that window. I'm going to go around a little bit more over the edges. Now, if you were in a hurry or you just like to use power tools, you could zap through this pretty quickly with a Dremel tool or a cutoff wheel in your motor tool, and that'll do the job too, but I would still prefer to go around the edges at least and make these cuts finer, and you'll see why here in a little bit. You don't want to have any overcut on these. All right, and just to speed it up a little bit, I'm going to follow my X on the back. And now we want to try and push through this. Once you get the first piece out, the rest will come pretty easily. Grab a pair of pliers really quick. Whoever suggested that Chloe should be here helping me, you're absolutely right. If this picks up and people enjoy this, we'll probably do some more of these. And Chloe's my expert figure painter. So when we get to painting scale figures, we might have her do that. There we go. Now we've got this popping out. I'm trying to adjust the camera so you can see a little bit better. Sorry, everybody. Okay. And once we snap out those 4 triangles, we've got a nice window that's easy to work with. Now, of course, we still have some rough edges. So we've got to trim this up a little bit more. And to do that, we're going to use a flat file and just carefully work our way around the window. I'm going to just clean it up a little bit first, and then we'll test. I would rather this be a little bit small of an opening and then work it larger to fit the window in than have it too loose for the window up front. So let's try one of our windows here. Trim those parts a little bit. You can see we're just about there, but we've got a little ways to go. So I'll continue to file this and open that up a little bit more. But rather than bore you with all of that tonight, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit on this one and show you the next couple of things we want to talk about. The next thing we're going to do, besides just opening up this window and adding a window to this, is I'd like to give the plastic more of a wood look. If you wanted to keep this as a vinyl siding style of model, then you wouldn't really want to do this step. But if you want to model an older wood barn or wood home or garage, then we can give it a little bit of texture. There are a number of tools you could use to start this process. I'm going to use a razor saw. How are we doing? It looks like I've got about a 3-minute delay, it feels like, on the camera from the live feed. So I'm trying to adjust as best as I can and rearrange my working position a little bit too. I feel like the camera's right over my head at this point. I'm using my razor saw to create some wood grain. And what I'm going to do is just hold this saw parallel with the boards and just drag in one direction. We could do this just a couple of times just to give it a little bit of texture. You could also use a wire brush, a rasp, any coarse object, and just drag it a couple of times over there, and you'll feel a little bit of texture added to that wall. It doesn't show up very well on the white, but once you see this painted, in a little while, it'll all start to make sense. Another thing we can do is peel up a little bit of the siding and make it look like some of the boards have started to curl or pull away from the backing. And that's a fun and easy trick to do. Works really well with wood models, but you can do it on plastic models as well if you're careful. Now this is a great opportunity where if you're not real careful, it's easy to cut yourself. So you do want to practice and be a little safe with this. I'm going to switch out my blade to a chisel blade. And now very carefully, wherever we want a board to be peeled up, I'm going to lay the knife as flat as I can up against the bottom of the siding and just work it underneath that little lip. Like I said, you want to try and not put your finger here or you'll have a red wall really quickly. And you can see that starting to curl up. Move it down a little bit and extend this. We can make it as long or as tight as we want. And then once you get it underneath, just start to pry up a little. And then it'll give you a nice curl up on the siding. We'll do a couple of these on here. This is something I like to do to a few models now and then, give them some character, but it's not something you want to do with every model that you build because it can get overdone pretty quickly. A couple little things like that, and we've got a nice looking wall that is ready for paint. At this point, I'm going to just do a real quick look over our comments, see if we've got any questions on there. It's probably better that I'm alternating a little bit between sharp knife blades and reading the computer screen. Let's see. If I can figure out how to scroll on this. Okay. With that, let me skip ahead. Now, normally the next step I would do with these is I would give them a coat of a light primer to seal everything and get everything ready to go. Now, I started with a second kit earlier today and prepped everything because I'm not set up here at the workbench to do spray paint. That's something that's best done, obviously, in a very well-ventilated area. And I didn't want to have to figure out how to drag the phone down to the garage to the spray booth. So we're just going to skip ahead with another identical kit that was prepared earlier with our 4 walls that have now been given a light coat of primer. And hopefully now here seeing this, you can see a little bit better detail how these walls look once they've been aged. We have, hold this up a little bit closer to the camera so you can all see a little bit better. Here are a couple of our boards that have been peeled up. You can see a little bit of the texture there in the wood. As we get some washes on that and bring out the color, it'll turn out even nicer. And here's our wall with the window cut in and finished up. You can either install the window before you do the primer or after. Normally I would do it after, but since this is all going to get the same color paint on it, it was just as easy to go ahead and glue it in place at the beginning. I've also painted the back side of these, just a light cream color, and that's because on this model, to do something a little bit different, I've cut out the garage door. Same way that we cut out the wall for the window, just going around with a knife and carefully snapping out that door. And that's going to allow us to put an interior in this garage. I haven't quite decided what that's going to be yet. It might be a guy working on his car, might be a garage band practicing their music, might just be a bunch of clutter and junk, the way most people's garages end up being the accumulation spot. But there's a world of detailing potential inside these garages, and I thought that would be a fun one to get started with. So we've cut out the garage door, we've added a window, and we're ready to get going. Now we're going to start to add some paint. Depending on how weather beaten you want your building to look, you could either go right into a finish coat from here, or you could hold back and do a lot more of a wood treatment underneath. For the model I did previously and showed previously, I did several layers of different colors of wood under here and a very light coat of white over top to get that peeled paint effect. And we're going to do something similar, but instead of multiple coats, we'll go a little faster and just go right with this gray as the undercoat and right into our white paint. And for paint tonight, what I'm going to use is this is Nicole's Craft Studio acrylic paint. This is almost white. This is one of my choice colors for white because it's not really a stark white. It gives you a little bit of an off-white color, which sort of resonates better. Clean up my workbench here. And to paint this on there, instead of using a brush or a spray can, we're just going to go ahead and use a sponge. And sponge painting allows you to get a nice texture on the model. For the sponges, what I use are large grout sponges. These you can get at any home supply store. They're good for cleaning tile grout and so forth. And one sponge is going to get you a lot of models for not a lot of money. So you'll tear off a little chunk of that sponge and we'll get started. I need a palette to work on here. Put a little bit of our white paint out. And now I'm going to take the sponge, dip it in, and I'm going to blot off a lot of that paint so that I'm not overdoing it. And from there, we'll transfer that same motion onto the model. Hopefully I'm in camera range here. See, the heavier we go, the more of that gray we're covering up, but we're still leaving a little bit of that showing through, and you can control that and put as much or as little of the peeled paint underneath as you like. We can also go through and add more peeled paint over the top in a second step, which we may do here in a little bit. Okay, hopefully we're still in the camera range here. Here's the first wall with the first coat of paint. It's easiest to build up your paint in layers. So if you can always add paint. It's a lot easier to add the paint than taking it back off again. Although with these acrylics, it's not that difficult if you screw up. They're pretty forgiving. Now you can get acrylic paints like this at just about any craft store. Walmart, Target, the craft sections there will have it. Typically a bottle of paint is anywhere from 59 cents to $1.30, depending on the brand and the color or the mixture. And I've got a pretty good stockpile of these, but you can always mix them up and mix and match. Now there's a lot of differences in paints. I would not use these paints if I was painting a scale model of a locomotive or a rail car, for example. You won't get the nice smooth coverage that you will get out of a finer hobby paint like Scale Coat or Model Master or Flow Quills or any of those good old brands. But what you can do with these is you can mimic these effects on buildings. They're great for aging and weathering and adding that kind of detail. And so that's where they have their role there. You could certainly use a more expensive paint from a hobby shop to get these results. And sometimes I've done the same, and you'll get very good results with that using the same methods. But in this case, these are projects where pretty much any white paint is going to do the trick. If you want to get a slightly aged white and all you have is white, mix in a little brown, mix in a little gray, mix in a little of a light cream color, and it'll take just that hint off of the paint to give you the color that you want. And I got one more wall to do here. Looks like I made just enough paint to do that. Okay. There is our first coat of white. Now another advantage of this paint is that it dries very quickly. So by the time you get around to the fourth wall, the first wall is just about done again. And this looks a little blotchy to me, not quite the way I want it. So I'm going to put a little more on here and try and even that out. I don't want this garage to be quite as beat up and derelict as the last one. One of the great things about customizing your kits this way is that you can build the same model many different times, many different ways, and no two are going to look exactly the same. So not only do you save some money over buying the ready-built models, although we do have those available too if you like that to have that option, you can also customize them and make them your own. You could take the garage from this kit and add it to a different house. You could add different wings to homes. You can move wall sections around. There are a lot of different ways you can build and modify these kits to make them exactly how you want them. Try and work it in a little bit under those, around the corners of the window. Make sure we're covered everywhere there. And one last wall to do. Okay. All right, that's going to do it for that first coat of white. We'll let that dry for a little bit. As we let that dry, look over the camera in here and see if we've got any new questions or comments I can answer in on. Hopefully that's feeding in and staying live. Okay. Next, let's start adding a little bit of texture and weather and age to this. One of the things that often gets overlooked on a model is making it feel like it sits in and is part of the earth. It sort of sits on top of your platform instead of looking like it is part of it. If you look at a lot of structures like this and these garages and things, it's not uncommon to see a little bit of dirt or even algae or moss sort of growing up, especially around the foundation areas. And it's nice to add a little bit of color and detail in that. You can see that here on the original one, a little bit of a highlight here down along the edge with some green in there, and just that little bit of color shift really does add a nice touch of realism and detail to the model. So I'm going to look for a good color of green here, probably a mossy or dark green. Let's see, what do we have? What I've come across is some hunter green. It was the first thing that was within reach, and that's probably a little bit too dark, but we can fix that easily enough because I'm sure there's some yellows around here. Put a little bit of that on there. And let's tone that down. This is melted butter. You can't go wrong with melted butter. Let's put some of that in there. Another nice thing about working with 50-cent bottles of paint is you don't really mind experimenting until you get something that you like. I have no formal artistic training, folks. I guarantee it. Still a little on the green side for me. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. But here's some sort of a yellowish green. This is called Kiwi. We're going to give that a try. This is a new bottle. We'll see what this looks like. That's a really runny one. Well, it's definitely got a good pond scummy look on there at least now. So that's probably a good place to start. Let's see if we can dab a little bit of that on here and make some moss effect. Harry just pointed out this is great. It can be done in your O-gauge buildings as well. You're absolutely right, Harry. It's sort of one of the fun things about O-gauge. Well, I'm working on an HO model here because it's smaller and it's what I do at home. We have almost identical kits in O-gauge. And the nice thing about O, even as an HO modeler, I'll admit this, is that you can really appreciate these details even more on a larger scale. So everything you're seeing done here can be done in any scale. You can scale it down, you can scale it up, however you see fit. We're just going to put a little bit of this along the bottom. Yeah, that's still a little more green than I'd like, but we'll tone that down soon enough too. Okay. And we'll put some of that on each of the walls so that it matches. I'm going to make sure I get the bottom of the wall here. Notice I'm not going for just an all-over coverage. I want to just keep this a very subtle detail and highlight here and there. So maybe a little heavier in this corner, but then not much at all over the rest of that wall. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to your weathering and your detailing. Okay. Now that we've got a little bit of color on the bottom sill, I want to add just a little bit of rust or of dirt and more grime. So to do that, I'm going to switch to a different weathering technique. This is one that a lot of you've probably seen or heard of, and that's we're going to use some weathering powders. I've got a number of different products I use for that. First here in the drawer, these are from AIM products. These are weathering powders. Got a medium earth and a medium gray. You can also pick up some weathering pastel sticks at an art supply store. These work very well also. You get them in a variety of different earth tones and colors. And very easy to use. I also keep, when I'm doing this, I keep a separate set of brushes handy with the pastels and the chalks. I try not to mix the pastel and the chalk with the paint brushes for obvious reasons. It makes cleanup a lot easier at the end of the night. So we're going to take a little bit of brown here and just dust that on the bottom, and that'll help tone down that green a good bit. And it gives it a look of some mud and earth that's been kicked up from a good heavy rainstorm. The chalks tend to be a little more subtle. The powders go on much more quickly. And I think the hardest thing to learn about using the pastels is that a very little bit can go a long way. As you can see there, I've gone pretty subtle on that just to get a little bit hint of brown. And again, I'm not going to try and cover the whole thing. I don't want the whole model looking like it's been in a dust storm. Just the base of the model there to give it some character. Let's switch over just for some variety. Try a little bit of this pre-ground powder. Now there is a fixative in these powders, so they do cling pretty well to the model, but they're not permanent until you seal the model in with a little bit of flat clear spray, like a dull coat or just any flat clear finish will do the job. So it is relatively easy to wash these off if you get on too much or just don't like the results. That to me is a little heavy. We can try and tone that down a little bit real quick with my finger, and that makes a much better looking model. For some overall dust and grime, we'll go with a light gray. This is a more stiff bristle brush, which works very well for these. And we'll just put some of that here and there. And this gives the look of, again, more aged and peeling paint, and just a general layer of dust and dirt buildup over the walls. You can do this step as I'm doing it now before you assemble the kit, or you can do it after. There's no single timing that works best. I find it a lot of times easier to work with the walls while they're flat, although I will also often save the dusting until the very end so that it doesn't get fingerprints and handled as much. All right, and there you can see where we're at. Sorry, I bumped the light, which means the camera is shaking. There you go. And we'll add some of those similar effects here onto our other walls so it stays consistent. Let's just put a little bit more coming out from underneath these peeled up clapboards too. I think I got a little heavy on that. I always keep a jar of water close at hand. We'll see if we can't tone that down real quick. Much better. I think you're getting the idea of this by now. I hope those of you who are watching are enjoying this, and if you have suggestions for future projects that you would like to see us cover here at the Workbench, please write in and let us know. Make comments in the Facebook section, or shoot us an email, or get in touch with us any of the ways you can with Lionel, and we'd be happy to hear from you and see what sorts of topics and things would be of interest to you. We won't do building kits every time. We'll mix it up and cover any number of different modeling things, from cleaning and servicing trains to wiring to other detailing projects, laying track, cleaning things out. Whatever you want to know, we'll be happy to provide you with some information so that you can enjoy this hobby to the fullest extent possible. Because there really is not much more relaxing than coming home from a long day and being able to sit at the workbench and tinker around with something like this for a little while. All right, we've reached the point now where I think I want to start putting some of these walls together and getting us into something that looks a little bit more like a garage. powders away before I knock them over and make a mess. And I'm going to use some plastic cement. This is designed for ABS plastic. So before I do that, I'm going to do one more thing really quickly here. And I now have chalk and paint all over my hands, so I'm going to just take a quick moment. We should all be washing our hands more regularly these days anyway, right? Get that chalk off my fingers and prevent myself from making a mess on the model down the road. All right, we're going to glue this together. Put a little glue on the seam. And attach part A to part B. Now I want to make sure that sets up nice and square. I keep a small square here at the desk. Works great for these things. Line that up. While that's sitting and drying, we'll do the other two walls. Put a little more glue on the inside just to help hold. Alright, and now of course, we join the two halves together. It's a little weak. And that was foolish. It does help if you glue the right walls together. Fortunately, we caught that before it got too far along. Now we're working with a plastic kit here. The techniques that we're going over for adding these finishing details and whatnot, they all apply just as well to kits of other types of materials, wood, cardstock, plaster, you name it. You can use all of these painting and weathering techniques on all of those different materials. They work very well. The only real difference from one kit to another is the type of glue that you're going to use to build it. After you've gotten the techniques down, you can work with all the materials pretty interchangeably. Make sure I'm square. Okay. Now if I wasn't going to put an interior in this, at this point I would move right onto the roof. But I think we're going to switch that around because it'll be easier to do interior details if we can work from the top down. Or maybe we can work from the bottom up and we'll add the floor last. So let's focus on improving the roof tonight, because that's another fun and easy topic to go about. Hopefully we are still broadcasting live. All right. This is the roof from the kit. I did give this a coat of spray paint as well, just to take the plastic shine off of it. We'll trim that off of the runner. I'm not going to spend any more time, however, painting or working with this, because when we're done, you really won't see anything but maybe these little bits of the edges. on this model. I've got to switch back over to my regular blade. I want to make sure we trim off all of the extra bits from the runner. Okay, now as you can see on the underside of this piece of the roof, this kit was originally designed so that this garage would sit against a house. And that meant that the roof would sit off-center on the model. So these pins help locate it. So if I put this together the normal way, I'll have no roof overhang on this side and a overhang on this side. And that's going to look a little bit odd. If you're putting it alongside a house, that's great. And of course you can reverse it so that you can set it to either side of the house. But so that we can put this as its own standalone structure, I'm going to center the roof, and that means I just need to cut off 2 of these pins. We will be making these garages available as their own kit in HO and in O later this year. And if you buy that kit specifically, it'll come with 2 of these garages that you can build and customize. And this will be changed in the tooling so that you don't have to do this step on those kits. But if you buy the one that comes as part of the house and you're using that, this is a quick, simple step that you have to take. And we're good to go. Now we can center that roof so that there's an even overhang on both sides. And I'm going to start by just putting a little bit of glue down on the roof here. Whenever possible, I like to work with glue on the inside of the model as opposed to working from the outside in. You're less likely to see any spills or seeps on that. Also want to double check and make sure I've got an even overhang on each side of the roof. Kick that over just a little bit. Pretty good. Not too much. Okay. Now I think you'll all agree that that looks like a roof, but not a very good one. But it's going to give us a nice base for the work to come. We're going to put a new surface over the top of this roof to spruce it up a little bit. First, I'm going to paint the edges and trim this up so that it matches the white of the building, however. And I'm going to do that with the same almost white paint that we used before. And this time I will use a small brush and just work along here. This is a little easier to do now before we put whichever roofing material we decide to go with over top of the shingles. Okay. Okay, now we'll take care of the roof itself. There are a number of different products you can use on these roofs. On the first one I did, I used 3 different materials. The shingles are a peel and stick product, and we'll probably use these in another video at some point so I can show you how they go together. There are a number of companies that make these. They are laser cut, they come in strips, and it's just a matter of peeling them off and laying down one strip at a time on your shingles. I believe these came from Minuteman scale models. They're very nice because they already have the adhesive added. Then, of course, we put some tar paper over top of that, which is what I think we'll do for this roof because it's a fun technique. It doesn't require you to go out and buy any expensive materials, and it'll look good on a garage like this. And then the tarp is just a small piece of a vellum paper that was painted and soaked in water and then draped over the roof to contour, and then some scrap added on there to help hold it in place. So a really interesting and quick and easy way to add a lot of character to a small structure. But for this build, let's focus on the tar paper. And to model that, all you need is a piece of black construction paper. Take the black construction paper, you give it a spray with a gray primer, or you could use other colors as well. Tar paper doesn't only come in black and gray. You'll find it in greens and reds. So you can have some fun with this and really mix and match and create some unique colors. You'll notice I didn't go for an all-over even color on this when I sprayed it. I just sort of misted it on to give it some variety, and that'll be very useful once we start layering this on in strips. Next step, of course, is to cut this paper into strips. For that, I'm going to use this little paper cutter. This was raided from my wife's scrapbooking supplies after she got something newer and better and faster, so I'm all for that. You can do this with a ruler and scissors or a knife, but this device definitely makes this part of the process go a lot faster. So thank you, dear. I typically cut strips about 3/8 of an inch wide, although that one got a little ahead of me because I missed the mark. Depending on what scale you're using, you may want to go bigger or smaller. And it'll probably take about 2 of these to do this model. But I'm going to do a 3rd one just in case, because I've already screwed up plenty tonight. Okay. Next we're going to start layering these onto the model. Before I do that, to add again a little bit more character and wear to the edge of these, I'm going to rough up the edges of the strips a little bit. And that's best done, hopefully this is in camera, along the edge of your workbench. You can take a sanding block or the edge of a knife and just scrape along there a little bit and give it some character. If you want to rough it up more in the edges or in the middle, you can. It all depends on how new or old or beat up you want your tar paper to look. Now we're going to switch over and use a little bit of white glue to hold it all in place. Let me get the last of my white glue out of this bottle here. Let me check and see. I don't know that my feed is updating as quickly as it should to keep up with comments and questions. And obviously I'm not looking at the feed on the camera itself since it's pointing down. But hopefully I'm not missing too much from people, and if I will go back and look and see if I'm missing some questions and I can answer them later, I will come back in and try and answer in the comments for you all. We've been at this for just about an hour now, so come on. Well, let's try a different glue. Just want to spread that out as evenly as we can. Lay on the first strip of tar paper. A little bit of overhang is okay, but we do want to try and make sure that it's nice and straight. And then we'll clip that off. I'm just going to work our way up the roof. The next strip will go on the same way. We're going to overlap the first one just a little bit. And we'll continue to repeat that process all the way up the roof. For a little more variety, we can also put tar paper on like this. We'll go about halfway across. And then work it from the other side. And then you'll have a seam there where in the real world the roll would have ended. Okay, let's do the back of the roof real quick. This white glue is a little thicker than what I would normally use, but it's actually flowing, so we're working with what we've got tonight. Now, something else you can do for a little variety, if you want to create a look of a patch, maybe they came in and did a repair here on the roof. I'm going to turn this piece over and just fill that in with a little section on the black side of the construction paper, so it looks a little fresher and newer as a patch. Roofs are a great place to spend a lot of time and effort as you're detailing your models, because it's one of the things that we really do see the most of when we're looking at the model. The interior in this is going to be a lot of fun, but making sure that the roof looks good is paramount. Now this last one will be a cap over the top. I'm going to cut it to length first and then fold it in half. Sorry, I'm probably out of camera. All right, and there we go. We've got a pretty decent looking tar paper roof. Like we did with the walls, we can age that a little bit more with some chalks very easily to help give it some more color and texture and blend everything together. For this, I'm going to run the weathering streaks vertically, mimicking rain patterns on the roof. And there we go, starting to come together pretty nicely. I think the next step on this is to start turning my attention to the interior, but we've been going for about an hour, and I think that's a good first run for our first Workbench Wednesday. I do want to take this opportunity first to thank everybody who's stuck along and enjoyed this evening at the Workbench with me. Give a few updates on some things coming up. Next week, on the 15th, Wednesday the 15th at 3:30 in the afternoon, we will be doing our Volume 2 live catalog show. I'll be back here with you going through all the wonderful new O and American Flyer product in the new Volume 2 catalog for this year. The next night, Thursday the 16th, will be on Train World TV on Facebook Live as part of the NMRA National Train Show live show as our virtual NMRA meeting. So I'll be there representing Lionel, along with representatives from, I believe, about 16 other manufacturers, showing off some of our new product and talking trains. So definitely want to plug that event. It's one that everyone is going to be sure to want to tune into. So we've got a big week coming up with lots of additional social media appearances on the way, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you all for joining. This has been a fun night. Thank you, Harry, for all of your tips and contributions. Harry Henning and Henning's Trains, another one of our great dealers who stocks all sorts of wonderful product, including the Lionel kits you've seen here, plus your paints and supplies and everything else. And one thing you get when you go to a store like Harry's is you can go and talk to somebody who does this and knows this and is quite the modeler himself. So big shout out to you, Harry. Thanks for tuning in and sharing. Thanks for everybody else who's tuned in and given comments. I will do my best to answer some of these if I see some questions out there that as I review this. Look forward to seeing you again next week on some more normal content, and hopefully more down the road here as we do more of these Workbench Wednesdays. Again, if you have a topic you'd like to see us cover, please let me know, and we'll see if we can get it on here. Thank you very much, and everybody out there, stay safe, stay well, stay happy. Happy 4th of July week, and have a great and happy, safe summer, everybody. Take care.